Okay. All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Elite Podcast, recapping the first half of 2016. 2016 has been an incredibly action packed year thus far between both games, and we've decided to get together and kind of recap everything that's gone on. Multiple untieds, multiple new strats. It's been pretty awesome. I've got two special guests today. I'm Jimbo, along with.
R. White Goose, how's it going?
And Carl, aka SimThreat, hello.
All right, let's get started. Starting off with a bang, New Year's Day. Probably the coolest untied on record for New Year's Day. G5 SA39 by Ace, untied that day. Carl being one of the best players in the world at G5. Do you have any comments on this?
I do. Really, really insane time. Obviously, it's not the world record at the moment, but don't let that fool you because the way that the strats have changed recently, but the way that the time was gotten at the time was insane. Someone who's played the level, I can appreciate how tight everything needs to be, and the control of Joanna that you need to get something like that is insane. It's like a light years above the rest.
So, on a scale of 1 to 100, what would you rate Ace's overall control of Joanna on that performance of that level is?
I think the G5 times and stuff like this would be the best times on the ranks. So it's like when I watch a video like this, it really is the pinnacle of human achievement. So I'd say close to 100, to be honest.
It makes sense if it's that good of a run. Do you think you would be able to achieve 39 the same way Ace did?
Definitely not. So I can say from a mechanical point of view, I don't have the ability, and it's like stuff like this is so precise that you need to have the gift from God, if you know what I mean. You have to be born with the fine movement ability or motor controls, something like that. Some people just have like a gift. Ace has a gift. I don't have that much of a gift, so I wouldn't be able to do it.
No, I feel you completely. I can relate on certain levels. I'm sure Jimbo can as well. Sometimes we see Clemens or Ace do something that we just physically can't execute on a controller.
Yeah,
Exactly right,
like the end of Train, trying to do the locks in a super precise way, just something my thumb is physically not capable of doing. It's just insane to watch these top tier guys do what they are best at. Our next point in January is Ilu being the slayer of Airbase Agent 113, 3.5 months after Green initially unties it. This is a level I don't know a whole lot about. Delegate this one to Carl. If it was a new strat or just an execution of a strat we've always used.
Were you asking me a question?
Yeah, whether or not 113 was simply a time better executed with the initial strat we've used for years, or if it was something.
Oh, no. No, there was a new strat that came out that Boss discovered, I think, which is a new way of doing the end, which is, like I say, a lot more precise. So the percentage of runs that you're going to complete is a lot less, but it's about a second or maybe like 0.8 quicker. There was like another slight optimization which involved a warp using the camp spire on the staircase in the level as well. Overall, 113 at the moment is not as strong in my opinion as 114 was, like 2 years ago or whatever. So if more people play this, they should be able to get 113. Okay, but the end is a little bit more precise, and more runs will be lost at the end.
That's interesting. So we're saying 114 was significantly better.
I'm not sure about significantly, but in my experience of the level, and I think from the experience of the people who have played it, 113 is technically easier pace-wise, but percentage-wise of completions is lower.
Sure, but it kind of sounds like the natural evolution of Perfect Dark and GoldenEye speedruns is it just gets more refined ultimately, you know?
Yeah, but there's a difference. There's a difference between percentage of completion and technique involved. So it's easier to get, but it's just a little bit lower percentage-wise completion. So there's a bit of a difference in those two things.
Do you think 112 is possible?
Yeah, 112 is possible, and I considered it. And then after I got 113, I played the level again to feel it out. And I decided that 112 was just out of my league. You know, maybe if I put in a long grind, it's doable, but it would be super long grind, and 112 isn't even guaranteed to get, to be honest. It's pretty tight. Really, really tight.
Yeah, I know those times where you think it's maybe like you know if you put 100 hours into it, you might or might not get it. It's like a toss up, so you don't want to do it yet. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And next up,
Benefit.
sorry.
I'm just saying, you got to make these decisions if you want to put in so many hours when there's other times to go for, and it wasn't worth it.
Next up on the list, we've got Jez kind of, at least from my eyes, coming out of almost nowhere, tying Defection Agent 5, which back then was still scattered, solidifying himself in the Elite. Do you guys agree? That was kind of his coming out party?
I don't think that's what solidified him in the Elite, to be honest. Because I think this is even before G-Day still, and I truly did not believe he was a real person until well after G-Day, honestly. So this was just, oh, maybe it's Luke screwing around, maybe it's Carl screwing around. You know, nobody really knew, and I don't think there was adequate proof to believe he was like a real person yet. But it was, you know, he was one of the probably first liner on Defection 5. So after you know all the facts, certainly it's an impressive time.
Well, my opinion of Defection 5 is a little bit lower than most. I felt like, okay, if I look at these records, Defection 5, for me, personally, when Jez I don't know, because maybe I wasn't following this early in the year, but my experience with Jez was Deep Sea Agent and stuff like that, so I didn't really have any opinion of him until later on, until that stuff happened. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I
Defection
agree.
5 is easy. And his Streets Agent record was like kind of lucky, if you know what I mean. So I didn't really have any respect at this point. Not that I don't now, but at that point, I didn't really know him.
Speaking of G-Day, so that was January 23rd. To recap, that was previously a day in our world record database, which had 0 records ever listed. So myself and a couple others threw up bounties to the best world records and Damn Agent 52. Well, anyway, Quexel was the first to actually get a world record in Surface 2 Agent 47, but Jez took it down by tying Streets Agent 112. So he took the bounty, which I listed for 50. He says in chat he won like 200. Good for him. And he's one of the first 3 world records on January 23rd. I somewhat echo Goose's sentiments. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Jez, it's a name I haven't heard of. I'm just being completely honest. And I kind of agreed with the whole Luke alt or Carl alt, and I put the bounty on the back burner. I will admit I was at fault when Luke made the topic about paying. I gladly paid once I found out everything was legit, and congratulations for getting 112. More on Jez later when we talk about the deep sea grind, but it's been pretty cool to have you around and talk to you and interact with you and things like that. So I have nothing but praise for you. Sorry, I'll turn it over.
He's a pretty cooked mate. He's a pretty chill dude. But look, I mean, you and I think, had the biggest incentives on that day, so we had the most right to be skeptical. And I think, if anything, it's a form of praise being skeptical to a new player, because you kind of don't believe that a new player could get such a decent time so quickly. People were skeptical of Ace and Dennis Lucid and others, so I think it's maybe even the highest form of praise.
Yeah, stuff like that, you got to be a bit curious. Because stuff like that doesn't really happen much. People coming in and having a weird name, and I don't know. You got to ask questions sometimes.
And one last note, shout-outs to Austin Perot for also getting Streets 112, which was a world record at the time. Probably to this day still his most notable time he's gotten. Best time? I don't know. I decided to give a go for 111, which he lost the race to, as we all know. Been well documented, and that journey has not ended yet.
Poor Austin. I mean, if I have to make a bold prediction here in the podcast, I would predict Austin never gets 111.
I might have to side with you on that. Sorry, man. And then one thing to note, I have a record. I looked up rather a recorded 17 total changes at the top for GoldenEye and PD. Just absolutely insane because we would go years and years at a time with no changes to number one. But between both games, we have 17, which is just it's unprecedented. It's absolutely insane.
So you're saying
is Austin going to come up at any point again in this?
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
I don't know if this is even relevant, but he had a run that was going to be 111 that was choked at the end, and I'm sure he feels terrible about it and all that kind of stuff. But it totally reminded me of what I like to do is I don't know how to say this. I don't want to offend Austin or whatever. That's the problem, but I'll say it anyway. Like sometimes you got to pre-think about what could go wrong and sort of fix those problems before you actually get the run. Because what it looked like was he was going to get 111 on this run, but he had this problem come up because of the way he was doing it was not really great, like very risky. So definitely I'll make a recommendation for people to problem solve before they actually go for runs instead of hoping for a run and then trying to problem solve when you're on the run, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, Carl. And for me, the level I learned that on was Silo Secret Agent. You have so many guards who can get in your way. And after so many hours of grinding, I realized you have to anticipate every single guard that could be in your way and think about all of the animations they can do and think about all of the solutions you can do to those guards. And if you don't do that, you're just not going to get anywhere on that level. And I do think that players of lower skill can get certain world records. But it is kind of lucky in a sense that they didn't have things go wrong and they were able to, everyone sort of has the skill to get a sort of difficult, lucky base time. And if things go right, then they can get it. But a really good player can grind through when things are going wrong and figure out why and respond to that situation, like you're saying.
Yeah, my input with that is my recent journey to Jungle 51. The very end, after the very last drone, the cave, I swear to God, reaches out and gets you every time, and you have to take a really weird strafe angle around it, something you wouldn't normally anticipate. There's a weird strafe pattern through the last couple of crates. All the guards could back boost you. You have to know exactly how to warp the ending, and it's something I was very green and very rusty going into because I hadn't played Jungle in a while, but I had to practice the ending after every shitty run just to be like, okay, let's pretend this is real, get these strafing patterns down pat so that when the real run does come up, I'll be prepared and ready to go. So yes, Carl is absolutely correct. All right, we're going to move on to February here. Let's say January was pretty good. February doesn't have a whole lot. Notice the big text. In my opinion, the highlight of the month is Isa Smith coming out and slaying Aztec Agent 124, 3 months after Clemens unties it. Going to delegate this to Goose, who probably, I don't know, you've had a lot of Aztec, traumatizing Aztec experiences, as have I. For me personally, this is just the devil level, like I don't know, just the worst level in the game in terms of frustration. Just it's a level you can die on Agent, which you can't say a whole lot else. It pisses me off more than no end. I've lost a lot of runs. I feel like I've gone what feels like days and days, almost weeks without getting a glass opening, and now we're doing these irresponsible, ridiculous strats of pausing at the console in the exhaust bay. It's just retarded, and Isa is pulling these lucky Aztec runs out of his ass. Good for him. But to see a DC ES time at the time was crazy. Good for him. But those are my thoughts.
I mean, the last time we had a DC ES time, ironically, was with a different DC on Frigate SA-107 back in 2005. So certainly a rare thing to see. The thing with Aztec Agent is you're right. Everyone now knows I had a 125 run where I basically lost 124 on the console pause, which is a very strange. Who develops these sort of strategies? Just insane. Who makes this stuff? But in January, that's actually, I was kind of taking a break for like 6 months or so, and I was playing Aztec Agent in January, and I got 130. The video is on my YouTube, And it's kind of funny. I have a live XSplit recording, and I'm listening to the Republican debate, and Marco Rubio is going on about Syria. So it's a pretty great video to watch if you want to see something like that. But I could only get 130. I couldn't get lower. So at the time, I feel like Isa's 124 was the first one to really expose Aztec and make people think, you know what, we can all do this fast glass strategy, which I now maintain is easier and more consistent. And instead of going for a 128, 129, really dipping low into the 124, 125 range.
Yeah, so I guess that's that. Moving on to the second point here, we've got Sammy coming out and finally on stream, which is cool, finally tying Statue Agent 218 a little over 2 years after Bauer originally untied it. That's pretty cool. That definitely, I mean, we knew he was a good player then, but 218 definitely took him to the top.
Statue just seems like a whole different universe, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Statue Agent is literally how consistently can you make the Trev shot?
Yeah, that, and how consistent can you get 35 endings on 0 boost runs after the Trev shot?
It's just a bizarre level.
I mean, 218 is insane. Honestly, when I play it, a good run for me is 220, and I need a little extra boostage to get 219. So 218 is absolutely fried. It's deeply cooked. And I mean, I think these two, this might be one of those times where no one else ties it again for a long time. Because it's no longer an untied. There's no incentive to go for it. It's only 5 points. I can kind of see 218 Agent staying as the 2A for years.
Well, it depends if Daniel wants to play, to be honest. I mean, 2.x makes it a lot easier.
No, definitely, and we'll see if anyone... I mean, still, has anyone failed a legit 217? I don't think so yet, you know?
I think people have, not on Agent, but on Double O, I think people have...
I've never seen a vid.
I honestly don't know. I'm trying to think if Mark ever failed one on stream with his new route when he was in his prime tying 218s. I don't know. I'll reference chat eventually.
I mean, there's...
Okay, I read it. I could be remembering wrong, but I swear I remember someone saying that
people say things.
Yeah, I know.
How many times did Clemens, fail some random time and post it in chat, and yeah, good luck. He never actually failed such a time.
Clemens myth.
Oh, seriously, when people say I failed something good on Discord, I always ask for a vid, even to the point where like they get insulted.
And then
it's true, because what good is a claim? It's like, oh, I saw an alien outside my window. Well, yeah, if you don't have a vid, who's gonna care?
And then to end the month, this is where 112 started to turn into kind of a joke record. 6 different players got 112, still as a record. And I felt like, personally, back in the day, this was when I tried to get it myself, because 7th place was still up for grabs back then. This is a time that trolled me to hell. And so I would see player after player after player post it and be like, damn it, I'm falling behind the times. But you knew 111 was coming, because this is when activities started to heat up.
Yeah, I mean, 112, that's what kind of happens. Kind of the natural progression of GoldenEye World Records is a lot of people tie him just before they get beaten. And so I don't think this is anything too noteworthy. 112 had sort of been people slowly dripping in for a while, and the new 2 grenade launcher strategy just ended it. I think 112 with the 2 GLs maybe is easier than 113 1 GL back in 2007 or 6 with only 1.2.
I just want to point out this like hive mind mentality where the everyone's bad at a level, and then all of a sudden everyone realizes it. If you look at the old 113 or 114 runs, they would just do really dumb things and just lose time for no reason. And no one really, for whatever reason, no one really paid attention to the level much. And there was just like time losses all over the place. Then when the new strategy came along, I think people started to look at the level with a different perspective. And just it was a lot more professional, and people were really starting to pay attention to little details, and that's when people started getting better times on it. But but there's a huge difference between the way people play it now and the way people used to play it. And it's not just the double grenade launcher strat; it's like all the little things and paying attention to all the little time savers and stuff like that. But there's a huge difference.
Do you think a lot of it is that certain levels are boring and people don't want to put any energy of thinking into it, and they just kind of go try to get their time and then they just move on?
It was the main issue was the grenade launcher guy back in the day, and it was the getting a grenade launcher overshadowed everything else. So when people played Streets, it wasn't like, oh, let's try and save a 10th here, save a 10th there. That's not their way of thinking about it. It was, let's just get runs and hope for the grenade launcher, and that's pretty much all they were thinking about. So when they, for example, if you look at the old vids, when they get a grenade launcher, they like break strafe to kill him, and I don't know, do weird shit.
No, it's true, and I remember posting a thread where I got a 114.1, and with it was no grenade launcher. It was before 113 had even been achieved with no grenade launcher, and I was saying, well, this is clear proof 112 is possible. It kind of started the whole 112 controversy with Nolan Bocom and Streets 112 and Sniper Patrol and an endless amount of fakes. I don't know if you were around for that, Carl, but it was just insane. And I eventually got a pile of 113's no grenade launcher. I think I was the first person to really show what strafing is all about on Streets and how low you can go. I think 112 is possible.
You were probably one of the first people to actually start looking at, boost ratios and all that kind of stuff. But everyone else at the time would definitely have been blinded by this one big thing, like the grenade launcher odds, okay? So if they're blinded by a big issue, they can't see the little issues, so it's hard for them to think about it properly. So another example is like Aztec. Why is Aztec now getting smashed? And the reason is Aztec, well, this is my opinion, Aztec was always a level where the biggest issue was like survivability and stuff like that. So when you play Aztec, a lot of the time you just want to get a run to the end and not die and get the glass open. When it takes a while for big issues like this to sort of become not as big issues, so people can really start looking at the small details, if that makes sense. So Aztec is getting smashed now because people aren't thinking about Aztec as far as death and stuff like that anymore. It's more like looking at the smaller details, and that's why the times are coming down. Whereas before, Aztec was this big, scary level, and everyone hated it, and they just wanted to get to the end and survive, basically.
No, I think that's very well put. So, are there any other levels right now where maybe this mentality exists? Maybe Caverns SA, for example, or everyone just so focused on completing.
Well, Runway is an example where it's happening again. Where Randy's, I don't know if you get what I mean. It's a little bit of a different story, but Runway has this stigma as well, where it's this shit level. So just that it's hard for people to really get past that sometimes. If there is a stigma or if there's just a general attitude about a level, it's really hard to overcome. But then what happens is someone does overcome it, and they break through, they break past the pack. Slowly, people will start to get over it, and then you'll see a time like Runway where like heaps of people have like 30 seconds and stuff like that once the old way of thinking about it goes away.
I agree. I can totally see that.
That and a guy like me kind of sits back waiting for, like, I'm never one to be proactive, but I am one to be reactive. So if 20 players suddenly get 32 or less, and it proves to be an easy strat versus the old shit way of getting like 37 and under, like, then I will hop on like, oh, it's like 23 points I have to get to maintain top 10, so I'll just do it. And that's kind of how I've always been. So once you've got like leaders in the speedrunning community, like, oh man, I'm going to be one of the first couple to get like 32 and under, then the rest of us schmucks, and me, I will admit to being a follower, like, okay, now I have to hop on the wagon before I fall behind. So
yeah, well, a huge part of running in general is psychology. And Ryan made a comment when we'll get to it in a second, when I got 111. He said 111 is a time that only a seasoned veteran was ever going to get. And I think he's pretty much right there. to get an untied world record, it's not just about control of Bond and doing a strategy or whatever. There's like a huge psychological thing about it. And I mean, I have my own opinions about how that affects you physically, but you have to mentally be there and be ready to get a time. And if you're not, it's going to be impossible. So a lot of people just, the way they think about levels doesn't set them up to be able to get a good time. And it's not because they can't physically do it. It's just because their mindset is not right.
You know what? I want to relate this into a little bit of the bigger picture that we can all understand as well. Similarly, when a few years ago in 2013, when a speedrunner by the name of Cosmo Wright was playing Ocarina of Time 90%, and they got an 1850 or so, and the world record was in the high 18s. They grinded until 1810, and only Cosmo was ever going to get 1810 because they were taking a new strategy, the swordless strategy, and they were pushing it. They were not just saying it like, oh, we're just going to complete a swordless running a world record. They took the swordless route and they like almost maxed it out to the point where it was like within a few seconds of perfection. And I don't think any other player who wasn't like a seasoned vet like that was going to take that swordless route and cut off an extra 30 seconds over where the world record already was. So I agree, it's totally mental, and I think it's something that really only seasoned players or very special players can sort of understand and grasp, to take a new thing and to maximize that. Like you take out that it's a new thing and you just keep going.
Alrighty, let's get into March. Starting off at the top, Clemens comes around and finally gets Streets 112, and the reason that's notable is because it gets him first place on the ranks for the first time since January 18th, 2013, a little over 1,100 days as champ for Ace, who stubbornly remained inactive and would just bleed points from Depot and Streets and Surface 2 Agent. So his bleeding of points opened the door for a lot of other players that we'll recap in just a bit here to rise up, erase that point gap, and take over first place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily fair to say Ace was stubborn. It's speedrunning especially is something that's so hard to get motivated to do. And especially when it's like, oh, now I gotta get motivated to play Surface 2 Agent or Depot Agent. Like, yeah, good luck, you know? I've certainly been someone who's bled a lot of points in recent times, and I can understand why Ace just didn't want to do it. It's just not worth your time when it comes down to it. But it did open the door for Clemens, and you're right. A lot of people really closed what was a huge gap.
Indeed. And then I've got a note for Justin St. Pierre posting Frigate Agent and the pair of Cradle 34s to get himself into the top 10. And if I recall, he definitely passed me with those 34s. And I was still personally stuck trying to get Streets 112 to counter that. Because I do believe that 7th place, the window was closing to get that back then, and Justin passed me, and he pulled ahead pretty far. And it was pretty discouraging knowing that if I got 112 finally, I wouldn't be able to get 7th place. So,
yeah, the thing with Justin is he's just so like efficient at playing. Like, he learns immediately what he's doing wrong. Like, he could see a run, and within 1 or 2 hours, he'd be playing it at almost a top tier level. The guy just like, I mean, I think he's the best Nintendo 64 player in the world, and I think a lot of people agree.
That's a pretty bold statement. Next point, and Carl, obviously you're going to take the floor here.
There. I mean, it's bold, but the guy has, sub 19 on Ocarina of Time, or a low 19. He has like a 16-minute SM64 time, and he's top 10 GoldenEye. I mean, what else is there? Like, what else does he need to do? He's the best N64 player in the world. It's not a bold statement at all.
Different topic. I think Mario Kart 64 has got to be thrown in there in sub capacity as well. But we can recap.
Who's really, really good at Mario Kart and really good at something else?
Funky Buddha, Boss.
No, Funky Buddha wasn't he like? What was he ranked in Mario Kart?
I want to say at one time he was top 50 kart, top 50 PD, and top 100 GE, something like that.
So why is top 50 a big deal?
Because top 100 in kart is insane because they have like 1,200 players. The competition's pretty insane. I don't know. Mark Jones came up with, based on how far like top 100 is, like 100th is from first, would be the equivalent of top 10 in GoldenEye. So that's why top 100 is this notable barrier in kart.
I kind of think though, like, these used to be fun and cool when we were 15 and 16 years old, but it's not like, think about the 50th best golfer or tennis player. Like, it's not that impressive. So why is it even remotely impressive in a video game?
I don't know. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and whatever achievements you get are.
Even something like tennis, like 50th, is like, who's that?
No, exactly, right? So that's why you have to be like top 10 in several games. Like, now we're talking, but top 50, like, big deal.
Anyway, before we get too
And
sidetracked and this
yeah,
turns into a
the
4-hour
the
podcast,
no, but Mario, GoldenEye, and what was the other one? Zelda. They're all like completely
Ocarina.
different games. They're seriously all new skills and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a good. If you want to get good at 3 games, get good at those 3.
Says the guy with the clip of himself beating all 3 in under an hour, which, by the way, is awesome. Let's get this back on track here. Okay, so Carl, you're gonna take the floor with this. Okay, so next up is Carl winning the race and finally untying Streets Agent 111. As far as I know, it was a race between himself, Ilu, and Austin. This was March 8th.
And
Ilu
Jez. Jez was
and
there.
Jez. Okay, cool. Ilu would tie it 2 days later, but I do remember waking up that morning, seeing 111 posted and watching the vid, and it was I don't know, seems surreal. It just seemed like a time that would never happen. Obviously, we were getting closer and closer to it, but I think all of even as recent as even all of 2015, 111 didn't seem feasible. It just seemed like a pipe dream. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase this vid. At least I thought I was. Nope. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, Carl, talk about your 111 and your preparation into it, and then kind of like what you thought during the run. And then when you're done with that, I'll have the vid ready to go.
Okay. Is it better to play? You haven't got the video ready yet? Sorry, I was burping. You haven't got the video ready yet?
No, it's there, but I've been having problems. With, the capture window goes away. Go for it.
Okay, maybe I'll explain some stuff first. Because I have a lot of thoughts about it. People who know me kind of well know that I think a lot about levels before I play them. So one thing I definitely do not do is just play a level blindly or like just sort of wing it. I literally think about everything I do on a level when I'm playing it. I want to make sure that the strats that I'm using are the best. And I want to decrease the amount of hours that I want to put into a time before I get it. So, I originally got 112, and I wasn't even planning on getting 111. So I don't know what spurred me on to want to get 111, but it kind of relates to what I was saying about this mindset thing. Because for some reason, I got the mindset, and a lot of people should be able to relate to this, where it's like, just all of a sudden, I mean, you were never thinking about a time in a certain way before, and then just for some reason, you feel like, wow, I want to get this time, or I'm ready to get this time. I can see it in my mind. So for some reason, I went from not even caring about 111 to, wow, I can see 111 and I'm going to get 111. So I don't know how that happened, because I was like totally inactive before this. But anyways, that happened, and I started studying the level a lot. So what I can tell you about my preparation is that there was a lot of using cheats, and this comes back to what I said with Austin about troubleshooting problems before they happen. So I spent quite a few hours. I don't know how many hours, but just playing with cheats on. Because I'm the type of person that loves to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly before I actually go for a time. So in this case, I spent hours with the double grenade launcher cheat on, just grinding the level. And I wanted to make sure that I could get 111 easily with the cheat on before I actually played it. So that was a huge thing. And a lot of the preparation was finding out how to do 12 grenade launcher boosts without dying, because that was an issue before this. So I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but if you do 12 grenade launcher boosts and then get a couple of KF7 boosts, you're going to die because of health reasons. So there was a lot of discussion and trying to figure out how to do the the 12th boost without doing it straight down to the ground. So there was a few places in the level that we tried out.
Now, Carl, sorry to cut you off there, but I was trying like on Surface 1 where you shove to the side and then kind of run and it's not optimal. And it seemed like you guys
Right.
developed sort of just before the middle possible grenade launcher spawn, bouncing off the wall and hitting there. So how did you kind of discover doing that spot?
I it might have been just trial and error I tried a lot of different corners. So I wouldn't have, before I tried it, said this is where I'm going to do it. I would have just tried like every corner, which I remember doing. And the reason we settled on that one is because the angle was good and the boost was kind of good. I tried that side boost that you used as well, but the problem I found about that was the guard. It lured the guard for me earlier than I wanted to, so the grenade launcher guy was in the wrong spot. But yeah, it was just there's no real great boost spots, and I did calculations like, for example, what Jim's playing the video. Is this premature or what?
No, I'm doing it on purpose, just so I don't waste a
Okay,
bunch
cool.
of time.
Yeah, cool. It even did calculations like, trigonometry stuff, like what angle of boost saves how much time. Like if a boost right behind you saves like 0.3, then if you do like a side boost, how much is that going to save, and all that kind of stuff. So I was really serious about it. But that was the spot that I ended up on, because even if it is technically kind of a side boost, it still saves like 0.25 or something like that. So it's not a big issue.
Oh, it's almost as good as a real boost.
Yeah. Even like a 45-degree boost saves over 0.2. So even a side boost, even if you have a run in like on surface or something and it seems like a side boost, it still saves a lot of time. For a boost not to save a lot of time would really have to be like a true side boost. But any kind of backwards momentum saves a ton of time. You can work that out using math too.
I've never seen any of that math or done it myself. I mean, maybe it would make an interesting forum thread.
It's actually awesome to know.
I used trigonometry websites where you put in the angle and stuff like that to work out the forward angle, the amount of forward boost you get.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's cool.
So yeah, I did a lot of double grenade launcher cheat running and figured out that boost. And then I recorded runs where I had the cheats on, and I had runs where I had just like 12 grenade launcher boosts with no guard boosts and stuff like that. And I had got 111s like that. So it was just a matter of time playing out the run. But I went from, I hadn't played Streets since like 2000. I want to say like 2003 or something like that. Like I was super terrible at the level before this year. I still had this mega old mindset about it where I knew nothing about it and it was just like this mystery and I was shit at it. This is what I'm talking about, where the mindset change, where there's a totally different mindset from I don't understand the level and it doesn't really make sense to like I see things crystal clear.
And not only crystal clear, but you see them better than anyone else in the world. Like you're now leading that sort of way. You're holding the flashlight in front of a group of people.
I can tell you 100% when I started playing this level, I saw it better than anyone else. And this is the reason why I got it first. Because there were other people trying a lot more hours than I put in. And they didn't they didn't lose because they were not as good a player. But they were just making mistakes that I didn't make. Or rather, I just knew were mistakes. So, for example, Ilu spent like 100 hours or more playing PAL, which is slower. And I have both NTSC and PAL, so I could play both of the different types. And I just knew straight away that PAL was slower. And I don't know why Ilu didn't recognize that or whatever. Because I told him multiple times.
I think Ilu's theory on that was that PAL, the boosts do less damage, so he could survive 12 straight down boosts, and he didn't. He thought it was possible like that. he didn't want to like evolve and find a new boosting spot. So I think that's what his rationale for doing PAL was.
Okay. Well, Ender, it's not a great. Okay. Well, the rationale was wrong. And then Clemens is just posting an interesting thing about there's 2 spots that the grenade launcher guy can appear at. Like there's a close spot and a late spot, and everyone else when they were going for 111 were we're trying to get the grenade launcher guy in on either spot, so either close or far. But if you get the close grenade launcher guy, it's not ideal, and you have to go out wide to kill him and all this kind of stuff. So I just thought, even though I'm going to lose some runs with a close grenade launcher guy, any run that I do get is going to be quicker. And it's just like, you got to weigh up the probabilities here. Even though I'm losing runs without getting the close grenade launcher guy, I'm probably technically more likely to get 111 because if I do get a run, it's going to be quicker. So there's all these weird kind of things that people were doing to get 111 that I just problem solved way early on. So it didn't take me that long to get it. And people who, once they started doing it the level how I did it, again, they didn't take very long to get it. So it just comes down to really thinking about a level before you play it and trying to look at all the small details and stuff like that. So that's the reason I got it first.
No, it sounds all accurate. And I mean, one of my biggest problems is going for that early second grenade launcher. It does lose time unless you're like Ryan Lockwood and get him right in the fucking head. But it's just sort of a mental block that you kind of want to not miss out on a run where, oh, he had it, but you weren't looking, so you didn't get it. When in reality, that run probably wasn't going to be 111 either. So it's just a sort of these mental blocks we go through while playing.
Can I just add a side note? Not to do with the level, just on a personal level. This definitely made me feel relevant again. And I made it a note to myself, like a challenge to myself, that I wanted to do this to prove that I still had the goods. Because when you're a super old player and you haven't played the level or the game for a long time, and all these new guys come along and they start getting new world records, and you just feel completely irrelevant and nothing really makes sense anymore, it can make you feel like you're just a bad player. And everyone else is just better. But sometimes it really is just because you haven't played the game for a long time and there's new strats and stuff like this. So this was a good opportunity for me to prove to myself that I still have what it takes, and that the reason I wasn't really high ranked anymore was because I wasn't playing and I wasn't trying. So it was a really good moment for me, and this probably spurred on my efforts with Perfect Dark later on. This definitely gave me a huge boost of confidence.
So Streets 112 made you the Perfect Dark champion.
111.
Of course.
Yeah, well, it made me... after I got this, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm fucking world class still. And if I can do this, then I felt like I could do anything pretty much.
I get that as the old player, watching all new guys come in and caking these times and realizing as we get older, we have different priorities in life. Women, jobs, money, all that stuff, carrying responsibilities, and all the young kids that come around seemingly have endless time and a lot of resources to go off of. In your case, Carl, you were the first one to get 111, and everyone else can kind of copy from that vid. But I get that. It's nice to be able to come back and get a really badass time and be like, fuck yeah, I'm still good. I'm still like, this is me. And to me, it proved to just, I've always thought you were an incredible player at both games. There's no doubting that, but it definitely proves you were world class or definitely belong. I mean, if you really put your heart and soul into it, you could probably take top 3 and really compete with, you could probably compete for first place in GoldenEye too.
Okay. I don't want to, let's stop rambling on because we've got a lot more to cover, but I will say that this is not me purposely trying to talk down to myself or whatever. I genuinely believe I can't do that well in GoldenEye because like Ace and Clemens and all that are just super good. Mechanically, see, GoldenEye is a game of mechanics. GoldenEye is like pure technique right now. The levels are very simple, and most things are completely figured out. So it's just a matter of execution. And the top guys are way better at execution than me. I can just tell you that from I've known myself for a lot of years, and I can tell you that my execution is not as high a level as some of the other guys. The only reason I'm doing well in PD is because it's not a game of execution right now. It's a game of strategy and knowledge and having an eye for a run. So that's the difference between PD and GoldenEye. So I'm never going to compete in GoldenEye at a high level anymore. PD, the door is still open, and it's going to be open for a long time because of how complex it is. But GoldenEye, not so much.
And yeah, I accept that. I definitely agree. I think Boss would too. If he was in here, he would talk about how there's a lot of open doors for possible new strats and time savers, and the complexities of PD will keep it alive for a lot longer in theory than for GoldenEye, which is, like you said, just a matter of execution and how many hours guys want to put into some seemingly derelict strats. So anyway, before we ramble on, you are correct. Let's get back on track. Back for March. Mark comes back and Hunhorde's 4 PRs, including Cradle 34s, and he takes back first place back on March 12th. So another change at the top. And then, so another change at the top is Luke Sklar's finally ending his very notable frigate heartbreak by finally posting 23, and finally gets his share of first place. And on the same day, Clemens finally improves his worst time for the longest time, which was Depot SA 41. He posts 40. He takes back first. Each of these taking place on the same day. If you guys have any thoughts on that, go for it. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
I mean, I just want to say, obviously, huge congratulations to Luke on taking the first place, even though it was short-lived. It's sort of just like he's such a... you kind of vision, like Carl's saying, Mark, Clemens, and Ace having just the being better skilled players, sort of being like the Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, they're just simply better. And to see Luke finally overcome all of that and get into first place, that was just really cool because it kind of brought the top three, kind of humanized them a little bit and brought them down a level. I think that's something Boss kind of struggled with his whole later career in GoldenEye, was that he knew he couldn't compete with those top three, and he kind of let them by. And I mean, he's still an insanely strong 6th place. But yeah, to see those top three taken down notch was really awesome.
Yeah, it goes to show that hard work can pay off as well. So the top guys let their guard down, and Luke put in a lot of effort and totally deserved that number 1 spot.
And moving on, I got to give a shout out to Birdie. I know he's kind of our lovable streamer. We give him a lot of crap, but in reality, Birdie's 34s, which he posted, put him on the map for the month of March. And I will admit, I used his 34s as reference when I finally decided to get 34s just a little while ago myself. So you helped out a top 10 player, Birdie. I'll give you that. And then Green One, however you pronounce that. Unhorde's the Green Project 2, and Unhorde's what I count 12 PRs with 2 world records. Sorry, that's a typo there, including an untied of attack ship SA-233, destroying Boss's previous untied, which stood from November 20th, 2009 to March 20th, 2016. He had 235 forever. And I feel Carl is obviously the expert here. Yeah, it was a super, super long untied. Carl, I'd like to get some comments from you about Attack Ship SA and kind of what you saw there, if you've got anything.
I mean, I have stuff. I don't know how much. I mean, I have my opinion on pretty much every level in PD and all the times and stuff like that. I don't know what's super interesting to other people. Yeah, 2009 for 235 is surprising. That's really good. I mean, 233 is just like a super solid run with a quick end. Not sure how, I mean, attack ship's just like not really a super interesting level, really.
I guess we're dealing with 206 now. 235 stood forever untied, and then Funky Buddha's 312, yeah, stood untied from like September 06 to, I want to say sometime late 2012, early 2013. It was just
I don't
like
know
all
why.
this shit stands untied forever.
Honestly, I don't know why. I played Perfect Agent and got to 311 in like 2 hours. This is the first time I hadn't played the level in years. I don't. Again, it's like it's just that mental barrier. Like I can assure you that with Deep Sea, a time like 233 and the Perfect Agent record, they're not like crazy records. They just people just haven't played them much. So there was an opportunity for Green to come in and untie it. 233 is a solid run with a quick end. That's pretty much all it is. Agent's a different story because of the insane luck at the end. But yeah, I mean, I was planning to go and play Special Agent. I don't want to take anything away from Green. Like, it's a good time and all that. It's just that there's not much commentary to give about it because it's a kind of a simple. Well, it's kind of an. It's just standard. It's just a standard run. I'm sure Green would agree. That's pretty much all I can say about that.
All right, mate. And then we'll move on to David Clemens finally ending his Caverns Secret Agent jail and slaying Luke's Untied of Caverns SA-113, which had stood since September 30th, 2014, so about a year and a half. If anyone remembers Clemens streaming in my opinion, one of the most heartbreaking runs ever, he had a 112 Scientist fail in the lift, which, if that happened to me personally, it'd be enough to almost make me retire. I couldn't come back from a lost Untied opportunity like that, especially something fading in the lift. That would suck. But I think this proves how strong SA-113 always was from the get-go, that it took Clemens, obviously a top player, a super long time to finally tie it. And it remains that way. So
I didn't know that Clemens had that 112 fail in the lift. That's crazy. How do the Scientists even fail there? Was it like a delayed grenade throw?
Delayed C, and then the barrels kept blowing up late, and he got to the lift quick enough, 112 pace, to where the E, or D, I guess in that case, failed in the fade, so we never saw it. So as far as Clemens was concerned, he was ready to celebrate what at least was a world record, and then when No Cinema popped up, like, oh, what the hell? And then the objective failed, boom, 112, and then you could just, the heartbreak in his eyes it was tough to watch.
That's just nutty.
Levels like that would totally be heartbreaking to get a fail on, because just the terribleness of the nature of the strat. When you actually get that, small percentage completion that you need, and then it fails, that would just be totally terrible feeling.
Yeah.
And it would be like playing like a level like Surface 2 Double Agent and having everything go right and then missing the mine, or something like that, where it's like super low percentage just to get a chance and then have it go wrong. Those things are terrible to go through.
And then Wodas would come out and post the pair of Statue 00 and SA-218s. To me, a very solid pair of world records. I respect 218s a lot more than most world records. So that was pretty cool.
218s are, like I say, they're good. They're always impressive.
And something else I find absolutely crazy, and I did not realize until putting together this podcast, is that Luke, Lockwood, and Clemens, all of them post Depot Agent 23 on the very same day, March 31st. That, to me, is insane. We all know how much Depot Agent sucks. Any comments? Go for it.
I had no idea they all got them on the same day. You know what? The level sucks, but when I was playing it, it wasn't that bad. I want to say there's definitely worse. I would even say maybe like a Chicago Agent might be worse to play. So Depot 24 sucks. 23, whatever. But if you're streaming it, if you're hanging out, if you're, listening to a podcast about cognitive dissonance, if you're doing something, it's tolerable, barely.
I played like 20 hours of Depot Agent going for 23, and I just had like 15 hours straight without getting a warp. I think the level is terrible. I just want to point out, Chicago Agent, I mean, I don't blame you for making that comparison, but there's a huge difference. Like, I can't think of a Perfect Dark level where you just are going through the motions. Depot Agent is just purely going through the motions. That's it. There's there's no thought process going in it or whatever. It's just like,
you're kind of wondering why can't I just set up a robot to do this for me? I know.
Yeah.
A robot. I would pay for that, now that I think about it. Okay, we'll get off that. Starting with April, so that rounded off March. Starting in April, I wanted to post that Clemens finally gets Facility Agent 43, a time a lot of guys gave him crap for. Also, 6 years, almost to the day that he untied 44 initially, so that was pretty cool. After that, I'll move on and I'll hand over commentary. Luke exercises his Facility 00 Agent Demons and finally posts 52. I was around him for a long time when he would always talk about the Heartbreakers, 52 fails, fast dokes, never really getting to close the deal. And seeing him post 52, I think, was awesome. It was a feel-good record as far as I'm concerned. Anything about you guys?
52 is like insanely solid. Like it's again, that's one that I feel like is just simply above my skill level. Like no matter how much I learn and practice and I'm aware of what's going on, I just don't think I can execute a 52 run. 43 I feel is a little bit easier for some reason, although I'm sure the facility guys would tell me differently. But yeah, 52 is insane, so nice job.
Yeah, I agree with that. 43 don't have to deal with ammo issues at the beginning as well. So these all happen day after day after day, April 13th, 14th, 15th. But then to round this off, Mark comes around and slays Silo SA 108 nearly 2 years after Ace originally untied it. Obviously, I'm going to hand the floor to Goose here. I want to know what you thought of this and talk about 108 and what you did afterward.
I mean, it's just kind of typical Mark to show up and get a really good record. I mean, Silo SA, like, it just always been one of the best levels and one of the strongest world records. So I take nothing away from that. Mark is a very good player. He got a very good time. I think I just sort of have a natural skill on the level where I can play with those guys. But, I mean, Ace goes on about, 107's overdue. This isn't even a good time. I can see sort of why he says that, but there are far many more overdue times. And when 107's achieved, it'll be one of the stronger records in the game again. So, I mean, Mark's just Mark. He'll show up and drop a really good world record every now and then, and I think that's really all there is to it.
Sorry, well said. It took me a while to unmute my mic there. No, I like it. Good stuff.
Was Goose going to comment on the 130? Did you lead into that with the 130?
I have not led into 130 yet. I'm going to right this second, though. You're talking caverns, right?
Yeah, didn't you talk about caverns and then you threw it over to Goose and then he started talking about Silo?
No. I talking about Silo and then I led it over to
okay,
Goose.
cool. Yep, sweet.
Yep. Okay, so next up, as Woda's rather posts his first career untied with Caverns 00 Agent 130 with the new strat. 13 days after he initially got 131, which was already considered an extremely strong record. I'll hand over commentary in a second, but I do know that this strat involves throwing a mine on the outside, on the other side of the bottom wall, where the first set of computers are, and then not actually going to the first scientist to lure him. This involves the Spec Lure and 2.x, so it's a really cool run, and I definitely want to showcase it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this 10 seconds after I stop talking if you guys want to give commentary, but I'm going to have the vid going in the background for the viewers. So I'll hand this over. Go.
Yeah, to be honest, just as a first note, I'm surprised that other people haven't done this strat. It appears to be something only Daniel has done thus far, and I'm not 100% sure why that is.
You know what? I've also been considering doing it, but it's just like, how do you put it? You can't just be arsed. Yeah, no one has the motivation. You kind of give him the respect, like it's his first untied. So I feel like there's sort of a level of respect. You kind of give it some time before going for it. I think that's sort of like the code that not everyone, but a lot of players have. And it looks sort of fun, but yeah, I don't know. It seems like, especially like the Spec Lure should be more used and should be like completely standard now and should improve everyone's consistency. But we'll just see how time plays out, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. I felt like the reason when I originally played the level, I didn't really push it because of the success rate. But it really feels like with the new strategy, if I were to go back to it, I feel like I get a much, much better time. Like, I feel like 131, the old 131s, if those players really came back to the level with the new strat, I feel like they could do better. When you start increasing the success rate of completions, the time is going to drop.
Absolutely. And I think we will see it in the future on Caverns 00. I think it's just a matter again of people just the motivation's not there yet. Once one or two people do it, like once I stream some Caverns 00 attempts, now everyone in the Elite is going to cut 5 to 10 seconds off their Cavs 00 PB. I mean, I'm just watching the run here as he's going up the spiral and stuff. It's just, I think, sort of going back to kind of the overarching theme of this cast, which is Carl talking about mental barriers. People just have this mental barrier with Caverns and completing it, and having the scientists live and whatnot. Especially that was even more true before we had Japanese versions going around. But even now it's a little bit true. And I think the Spec Lord just kind of takes away that mental barrier. So now we can kind of go balls out and fully see where this level can go. I don't think 129 is out of question, although I do know Lotus used 2.2 or 4 on this level. So that
It doesn't really save much.
Yeah, but so we'll see. We got to see how low it can go. I mean, but I think the mental barrier should be gone.
You can do video comparisons, and it doesn't save that much. It's like it's not a huge 2.x in Caverns 00 Agent at the moment is not a huge deal.
So it saves maybe 0.3 or so.
Yeah, 0.3 or 0.4 or something like that.
Yeah, definitely not a huge deal on a leggy level where you can get a lot of stucks and stuff.
So people shouldn't be saying, oh, he used 2.x, therefore I don't want to play the level. In the scheme of things, this run, like, it was hardly impacted by 2.x.
Well, maybe a lot of people were saying that, and maybe hearing you tell them, that'll change their minds, and they might start playing the level.
Yeah. If anything, kind of, I felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm not as good, but when I play 2.x, it's difficult to play it as well as 1.2. I think Daniel could get 130 again using 1.2. He played 2.x obviously because he can, but this shouldn't be looked at as a 2.x thing. I think this has more to do with the strategy used and that kind of thing. So when people look at the level, don't just forget about 2.x. You're not gonna lose a lot of time because he used 2.x. Okay, it's just not a big deal.
That's good to know. I think the Elite will be happy about that.
All right, we'll move on. I did take note that Jez finally did get Streets 111 in the month of April. That was pretty cool. And then I'll move on to the next point. I was debating showing a video, but I feel like nobody would really understand it. Carl comes and slays Ilu and posts a 6-second investigation essay untied with 2 minutes. Ilu would then tie it in 2 to 3 weeks. I would like Carl to make some comments on that. What inspired you to play it? Where the hell the 6 seconds came from? And go ahead.
Yeah, why did I play this? Good question, because I don't know what happened. Okay, maybe, like I said, Streets 11 happened. Streets 111. And then investigation. So I was already kind of feeling good, like I could achieve stuff, and I wanted to get another untied. And I remember playing investigation essay like ages ago, like a year beforehand, and the triple skip had never really been done well, and it was possible. So I just decided to go back to it. I wish I could remember exactly why I went back to it, so I can give you better commentary on that. I don't know why. I just went back to it for some reason. And I worked on the skip. So let's see again with investigation. I'm the type of player who will practice and grind things out before I actually go for runs. So with the laser skips and stuff like that, I just sit there with invincibility on and just grind it and just grind it and just grind it. So I've just practiced just the lasers for hours and hours and hours. So when I go for runs, it's kind of easy to do. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was always, everyone was saying, a sub 2 minute run or a run around 2 minutes is insane. And it would be insane if I just skipped straight to 2 minutes. That in itself is really crazy because the chance of getting a skip is pretty low. When you start getting into probability, it's super improbable that you get 3 out of 4 skips. It's like way more probable that you would get say have 5 attempts to get all 3 skips, or 6 attempts. So it's kind of like I should have really gotten, maybe 205, then 204, then 203 if you just look at probabilities. So it's really, really weird that I skipped to 2 minutes to begin with. But for the strat I used and everything, it was a really good run. It took me about 20 hours, and there was just a little mistake I made at the end that made it a little bit irritating, where I lost 159. But yeah, it was, and we can talk about Ilu if you want, which gets even more insane.
Well, we can talk about that because I'm pretty sure I make a note about 103 coming up, and then we'll kind of carry over to Ilu with that.
Okay, I gotta have a gripe with Ilu and his run, because when we practice laser skips, we each develop our own sort of setup, our own way of doing it, and so if you look at my investigation runs, you just kind of see how I do the skips. It's like my own kind of way of doing it. When in Ilu's run, his second laser skip is completely messed up. Like, he was not in the right spot. He messed it up. And he just sort of like said, fuck it, I'm going to go for it anyway. And it ended up being a perfect skip, which is just ridiculous. Like, he shouldn't have made the skip. I have no idea how it happened. It's like a 1 in a million. He messed up the setup and still got it. And I just find that really irritating to look at myself. I don't understand it.
I know what you're saying. Sometimes you see someone tie your record or good record, and they just did something wrong or unlikely, and it is a little bit tilting because you kind of wish, it's a little bit jealous. You wish you had that sort of luck,
It's not even that. It's just seeing somebody else like cake your time. Like, I don't know. My beef is like a Hendricks Bunker 122. It just doesn't even look like a 22. It's such a bad run in my eyes, and it's like, how is this still a run? And like, I struggled with this.
Well, Ilu is not someone that I would say I would be upset about for tying, because Ilu is someone else like me who has played the level a lot, and he has a history of practicing lasers, and he understands the lasers and stuff like that. So I'm definitely not upset that Ilu tied it, because he deserves to tie it more than anyone else, because he puts the effort in. It was just that the way it was done was just ugly, which I don't like.
So it wasn't a very artistic run.
No, it was he messed up the way, I know he messed it up. He like strafed too far and was hitting it from a wrong angle. Like, you would never do that if you were trying to do it right, and he still made it. So it's just insane. And then obviously his run had a slow end because he messed a couple of things up, which I think evens out because he used a slightly quicker strategy that I didn't have access to when I did it. So I think I'm happy with both of us having 2 minutes. I think that is where the time's going to sit at. And if neither me or Ilu played the level again, I think we'll both be happy.
Well said. We'll move on back here, and I've got Swiss, his first mention of Swiss, posting Frigate 23 and Egypt SA 45 in the same day. 2 records I don't have, 2 records I respect a lot. 45 still, to me, seems like it's in another zip code unless you use the crazy 2.x ducking strat after the GG room. Obviously, we'll talk more about Dan as the second part of this podcast comes around, but as if we needed further proof even back then that Dan was a good player. His strafing is proven through G5 is exceptional, so these records shouldn't come as a surprise, but seeing him across both games getting good records here was pretty cool.
No, definitely. And I mean, since the Twitch era began, we've seen a lot of names come into the elite, a lot of new names. And a lot of them, you kind of feel like there's just a big bucket, a big basket full of these throwaway names. They could be anybody. And it's very rare for one name to stick out and finally go, oh, wow, this guy out of 100 is actually very good. But Swiss certainly has made his name stick out in recent times, and he's a very skilled player. So I think this is only the beginning for him too.
Well, I hope it's the beginning. Obviously, he sticks out for me as someone who appreciates his G5 skill. He hasn't really shown that level of skill anywhere else. So at the moment, he's like insane at G5, and Clemens and Ace and I will all say that Swiss's skill on G5 is insane. It is like top tier. Like I would say even like better than me as a player. Like just from a pure technique point of view. Uh so it's strange that he's got such a high level in that one level, and then I can't see it anywhere else. Even though his other times are good, I just hope to see more, really, really top tier stuff in other levels.
All right. And then I've got Clemens improving one of his best records already in PD with Extraction PA 128. I know for a while his 129 initially had webcam quality, wasn't the greatest. He took it down. He would redupe 129. Post that, he was never happy with it. I think ultimately he did want 127. But I know once he got 128, a bit of load was taken off his shoulders. He was happy with that. Carl, I don't know how super familiar you are with Extraction. I feel like it's one of your underplayed levels. Do you have any comments as to how exceptionally strong this is? Do you feel like someday you'll go after his essay record, which is now the longest standing record, and maybe 128?
128 is very, very strong. 128, in my opinion, is a lot stronger than 118 is on Special Agent. 118 is overdue to be tied. 128 just has a lot more movement in it, and it's a little bit more complicated. I definitely see 128 as a lot stronger. It's a really good time, and I don't think I would go for 128. So, but as a comparison, I think it's a lot stronger than 118.
And how often can you execute runs where you get the double headshot right before the final or going up the stairs to Cass's level, where you do the double pump and getting both headshots? That's got to be like, Clemens made it look kind of easy, but that's got to be something that is like, how often do you think you can execute it personally?
I don't know. I didn't play it long enough to get good percentages or odds, so I can't really tell you. I think it'd be a lot harder on Perfect Agent, though, for sure.
Okay.
Maybe if Clemens is doing it consistently, it's because he's good.
Yeah, I guess it's just like the double headshot, double pump on Deep Sea. But anyway, we can save that for once Deep Sea comes up. And then we got Justin proving his skill. In my opinion, this is my observation, proving his skill in both games with Mayan SOS SA 153. I thought that was insane. To me, as far as I'm concerned, that came out of nowhere. Like, what? Because Mayan SOS SA is a fairly underplayed level. To see him post that was like, whoa, this dude's for real. So that was pretty cool.
Well, he played, to be fair, the 153 didn't come out of nowhere. He played the level for at least a week, I think, before getting it. Because he had I could see his PR history of like going down and like improving the time.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And 153, I mean, I kind of always asked around, like, what's an easy or what's a likely PD record to go for? And the good players would say Mayan SA 153. So I danced around with it a little bit, but I never really got anywhere far with it at all. So certainly I would say like an Air Force or an Air Base might be a little bit easier. And so it's Mayan's not as easy as it looks, and certainly an impressive time that you take note of.
Well, no one really figured it out, to be honest. We'll get more into it because I have a time on this level coming up later. But 153 was gotten back in 2007, and people still don't really understand the level, and they don't have a kind of a best practice way of doing it. So that I don't understand. I can tell you that I myself have figured it out a lot better. So 153 is overdue for an untie, in my opinion.
I would say so. 153's been there for what, 10 years or more?
9 years, yeah.
It's one of those levels that it's like a knowledge level where it's kind of no one really knows what's going on, so it's going to take that person to figure it out, which I think could be me. But when people figure it out, this time can go down to like 150 or 151, with just the way it's designed and what's possible.
And then finally, to end the month of April, Green posts another untied. This time it's Airbase SA 141. Carl, does this have anything to do with the Agent ending, the new strat on Agent, just simply applied to SA?
Exactly right. It is pretty much the standard run. That was the 142 world record with the new laser strat at the end.
Just, I mean, that sounds like a good time. I remember watching Clemens's 142 with the Cranberries zombie music, which is one of the best like webcam era runs and vids around. So watch that if you haven't seen it before. But yeah, 141 looks like a pretty nice time for sure. Is 140 gonna happen?
140 could happen, but it's super, super, super top tier. I did play a little bit for 141, but again, it's like a low percentage kind of run because of the lasers at the end. 140 again would be really good. I mean, 141 did not happen previously with the old strat, and 140 is basically 141 with the old strat. It's really hard, and I don't think it's going to happen for many years.
All right, moving on to the month of May. 2 months to go, gentlemen. I would like Goose to take over this part. Okay, so I've got Swiss and Icy posting Air Force Agent 53 2 days apart from each other. Goose, you're fairly experienced in Air Force One Agent, correct?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I went for 54, and Ace stole it from me. He got 53 before I could get it, so that was annoying. And then finally, I got 53 after 363 days of not having a world record in Perfect Dark from anyone. So I ended the drought before it reached 1 year. So that was pretty cool. But 53, it's a decent time. But the thing is, I feel like on a lot of Perfect Dark levels, like Carl was saying about Mayan, is that mental block is still very much there, and people don't really know or go beyond it. And there's so many little things now that have been found on Air Force One that really affect consistency and improve runs. So 53s, I mean, I would almost say it's fairly easy to get. If it was Goldeneye, it would be a 6 or more liner.
Yeah, the thing about Air Force One also is it's a 53-second level, but there's only like 10 relevant seconds that actually happen.
All right. Okay. So, going back to Investigation Agent this time, Ilu gets revenge on Carl by untying Investigation Agent 103. However, Carl would tie it the next day. I do remember talking to Clemens and him saying that this is the sickest snipe of all time. I would like Carl to elaborate on that, whether or not that's even true. And, okay, so you guys shift gears from SA down to Agent. Why was, like, how epic of a skip was your 103, and how strong of a record do you think this is?
Okay, so there's two main things that brought the level down from 105 to 103. The first one was a new sort of quick pause for the cam spy, which meant that it's hard to explain, but anyways, you can release the cam spy like half a second quicker than you could previously. So that took the level down. And also, it's more, again, this is coming back to the mental aspect. When I got 105 originally, I thought it was like maxed. I thought it was really, really good. And then, I don't know if Clemens said this to me like ages ago, but he's like, the strafing was just bad or something like that. And I was like, I just kind of played it off as in, yeah, right, you don't even know what you're talking about. But then we were talking about it again, and he mentioned that the strafing was bad or whatever. So I was like, I'm going to play the level again and just have a look. So I played the level again, just focusing on strafing, and I was like, wait a minute. For some reason, I am getting up to the lasers like a second quicker than I was before. And this is without any new strats. And It's exactly the same thing as pretty much what we've been talking about a lot. The level investigation is about the lasers. So when people think about investigation agent, they're like thinking laser skips, right? So it's very easy to overlook the subtleties and small details of the level. So when we originally got 105, we were just trying to get good skips, and we weren't really focusing on, the small details. When you get to a point where the lasers is not such a big deal, then you start looking at the other stuff. Um, the forest. What is it? The forest past the trees, or what's the saying?
What
Trying to
was
see
the lead
the
in?
tree, trying to see the trees through the forest or something. Is that the
Yeah,
saying? Yeah. So I realized that there was all these little tiny things that I was doing wrong in the 105, and so when we revisited the level, it was just we were focusing on the smaller details, which enabled us to get to the lasers quicker, which enabled the 103s to happen. So me and Elu were both really good at laser skips, so if everything else is going fine, then we're going to get the time pretty quick. So both of us, when we were trying to get it, we were going to get completions. It was just a matter of how quick were those completions going to be, basically. It wasn't a huge snipe. I mean, the new trick came out and everything. And Investigation Agent is not a level that should take a long time to get it complete, especially if you're good at the lasers. So it was just, we got it on the same day, and he happened to be able to play it before I did because I was like at work or something.
it happens, man. You just are away for a week and someone snipes your record,
All right, we'll go back, and I got Luke becoming the 5th player, and I put that as an asterisk with Control Agent 356 because Clemens still is not on the ranks all these years later. I guess neither of us, the three of us, we all have 357, I think. In my opinion, 356 is insane. 357 was tight enough. That's a lot of respect for that time and what it takes to get it.
357 took me like 70 hours or something absurd, but it's a very fun level with the consistent Italias now, so I didn't mind as much. But I don't know what I would have to cut to get 356, so it's a very good time.
All right, so we're gonna switch here. There we go. Getting my shit in order here. Okay, so next up is going to be Ogren posting his first career untied with Streets 00154. Goose is going to take center stage here with commentary. He would tie Goose's SA 154 just 6 days later as well, and finally complete the sweep with Agent 111 on May 19th. So,
yeah, Goose, I'm just gonna quickly go to the
go for
toilet. Goose, take it away.
Okay, so I'm gonna start the video here about 10 seconds after you start talking. So go for it.
Well, I mean, Algran is a good dude, and whenever you never want to have your untieds drop, but when you do, you want them to go to a good person, and I would say Algran is a good person. So I didn't really feel that bothered at all by losing my untied here and losing really the crown of Streets. I know he worked a very hard time for 154. He was doing a lot of stuff with this whole PP7 lure, which is very interesting, and something that I need to take a look at. I think a lot of people need to take a look at because it seems to have helped him a little bit. Obviously, doing it isn't going to give you a free 154, but it certainly helped him. Yeah, it gets a good boostage at the start, just a whole bunch of just a really well executed run, and I kind of wonder, like, if I had gone 154 and had both untieds, would he have gone for 154? Maybe not. But as soon as he got 154 he had to go for Secret Agent as well, and I don't blame him on that. But you'll notice no Val Strafe, which is pretty interesting because I would say the Val Strafe saves maybe 0.7, like it saves significant time. So I think that's a very curious thing. I really am a firm believer 153 is possible, but only Ogren and I right now are beyond the sort of mental barrier to get there. Even 152 or 151, I wouldn't even put out of reach. Like, this Streets could get exposed hard. So this is quite the run, and it's kind of good that he established sort of a new kind of rule set, a new way to play Streets with this 154.00 run and the boostage and whatnot, because now we have he sort of created a really good framework to work from and really refine the level now. I believe, and I kind of want to go for a Secret Agent run with Valstrafe, Lured Boost, and Grenade Launcher. And that should be able to get 153, maybe 152. And I mean, his annotations are really good on the video too, so it should help anyone. I mean, I think we can maybe see some 154s start to trickle in over the next few months here.
I think 154 should be more tied with the new cutscene strats and all that.
Definitely, and like strafing Val isn't even that difficult.
Did you touch on the fact that there was a new strat?
Yeah, sort of lure the first guard, and
Yeah.
I mean, what it does is it gets the guard in a position after the first corner when you're back on the street to give you a boost right through, and oftentimes there is another guard there who back boosts you, so it really adds consistency plus a boost, which is nice.
Yeah.
But that
Well, I mean,
guard-
when you were doing the Val strafe, you were losing tons of runs because of the start. Just didn't go right.
Oh, well, absolutely, but it was sort of a more difficult to get a good start. But I think actually, I remember like I call the critical point is a certain corner after Val, and I think I was like 0.7 up on even Ogran's run here. So there's still a lot of time to be won or lost on Streets. So like he had a far better ending, and I had a far better beginning, and if you add them together, it could be 152, maybe even less.
Pretty awesome commentary, guys. That was awesome. Okay, so we'll move on from that and show a little love to PD. Now, this is a level rather I know next to nothing about, and I wanted to. It seems kind of random why I would pick this vid, but Carl unties Crash Site PA 150, and his commentary is that it's just the same strat done better. Now, I think 150 is a sweet record. And I enjoy watching the video because there's a lot of clean strafing that has to be done at the end. I guess I don't know how to explain what I mean. It just seems like a fairly complex level. There's a lot of RNG involved as well. A very clutch Magnum shot eventually. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to play this vid in the background and hand it over to Carl.
Can I tell you a story?
Go for it.
Because this kind of level is, I mean, there's a couple of levels that just embody the fact that PD is a uncharted territory, like the Wild West. This strategy was used by Boss to untie the time. I forget when it was, a couple of years ago. It was he used this strategy to tie 151, and 151 was the record that Cedric got, and Cedric's one was really good for the strat that he used. And then Boss used a different strat to tie 151. And you can tell when you look at Boss's run that there's like a couple of things that weren't optimal. Like it was more like just getting in completion. But the strat that Boss used was actually around since 2007 or 2006. And Matt Cook on the message board said, "Hey, can we do the level like this? Is this going to be faster?" And then I forget who replied, but I think it might have been Greg K, or I hope I'm not wrong there, but someone was like, "Yeah, no, this strat doesn't work, or it's slower or something." And then just the strat was forgotten about and like buried in the sands of time. But then it kind of had a resurface like recently. So it's strange how like there's strats out there that people aren't like think are slower, but they're faster, and it's just like there's so many different ways of doing the level. But Boss resurfaced it obviously, and then I just looked at Boss's run, and I could just tell there was a thing or two that could be done a little bit better. So I just decided to pretty much do the same thing, but there's a couple of little bits that I improved. So in the run, there's a part where I throw a mine over a wall, and it's like a really precise throw to do it without stopping. So on Boss's run, he, runs up to a wall and stops and aims and throws and stuff like that. But I practiced it for hours and figured out how to do it without stopping. So that's pretty much the main reason that I got 150 and he got 151.
And you touched on all the good points there, Carl. It's an insane run you have. I mean, I was actually playing the level at the same time you were, and I ended up with 152. I have a choked, duped 152, where I missed the first shot at what might have been 150 pace on the last drone. But I was always slower than Carl because I didn't use that mine throw strategy, which is something obviously he developed and is the better way to do it. And Carl was always kind of a little bit like secretive about how to do that mine throw. I would kind of ask, and he would never like give me a clear, oh, it's in the vid. You can watch the vid, right? But no, it's a really fun level. And I actually used this strat 3 or 4 years ago when I was just trying to complete some NAs on my PD times page. And then Boss got 151 with it, a long-time Cedric record. And Perfect Dark is completely uncharted. I think there's minutes probably that could be taken off the Perfect Dark total time. And this is a really, really good, clean run. But, I mean, Carl will probably tell you 149 is within reach. And then Randy came up with a strat that he claims might be 1 or 1.5 seconds faster with a slightly alternate ending. So who knows where this level will end up.
Yeah, there's still strats that are still better strats to be used for the person who wants to go and use them. That's why PD is so awesome.
Awesome
Like
stuff.
there is like the strat. There is a new strat for the end that is over 1 second quicker.
It's so hard
like,
though, Carl.
It's there.
It's so difficult to do.
No, it's not hard. It's technique. Okay, you gotta trust me. You gotta believe me when I say it's technique. It's not difficulty. A lot of the stuff, it's how you do them, and if you do them the right way, they're not that difficult.
Fair enough.
I mean, I watched how you were doing it, and you were making life difficult for yourself. It's definitely not a difficult thing.
All right, well there you have it.
Good stuff.
Like, when you see like really top sports guys, their technique is good, and a lot of people never reach the high, the same level of skill because their technique is wrong. They've developed bad habits or whatever. In this particular case, I watched you play it, and it was just a technique thing. It was not because the strategy was difficult.
Well, I mean, that's good to know, because then it's easily fixable, and maybe I can go for 150 or 149 soon.
Oh, yeah. 150 is within your reach, for sure.
All right, and we'll wrap up the month of May with Luke finally becoming the third player to get Silo Agent 100. 1 minute, I always say 100 habitually. And finally ends the month with Jungle Agent 50. Goose, if you've got any comments about Silo Agent, especially 1 minute, which to me just seems like a totally different universe.
Well, Luke always says that Silo 1 minute is literally 101, but every single thing is done more optimally. And I don't know, because I've never gone that low or that deep, so I can't say one way or another if that's the case. But I would trust his judgment. And it's just an absolutely cooked run. It's so fun to play. So sometimes you can kind of get lost in the fun and not be constantly improving or thinking about what you're doing wrong. You can just kind of hope for a really clean run, which will end up being 101. So to push it beyond that is a really special thing.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that level. I'll talk about this once and then we'll move on to June. I have always struggled with Silo Agent. It's just a level that has too much circus shit going on, and I struggle with levels like that. And even like 101 to me seems outstanding, let alone 1 minute. And if somebody ever gets 59, to me, that's going to be like a top 2 strongest record in the game. So
I think Mark will probably get 59 within the next 4 years.
That's insane. All right, we will move on to June and get things kind of wrapped up here, because this is the podcast has been good, but I don't want it to go on forever. So this is a pretty busy month. Ace starts out the month by finally slaying Bunker 2 SA-44, originally untied by Clemens 5.5 years prior. And I do believe, this is off the top of my head, it was the longest standing untied, or at least it was the longest standing active untied for sure. It was at least top 5 ever. So that was cool. He sent me a snap showing it, and I actually couldn't believe he finally got it. So I don't know if any of you guys got comments on it.
Well, just a good run, but obviously the new strategy's out there. Ace and others claim they couldn't get it to be faster than the current strategy. But time will tell, right? I'm sure someone will come along and really optimize Henrik's different route strategy and make it work. But 44 is amazing. When Clemens got in 2010, it was absolutely insane. And now we see it fall, and there you go.
Cool. And then the next vid is going to be Gus Riolo, actually during the VA meet, post his first career untied with Surface 1 147. I'm going to play this vid. I'd like Goose to go over it eventually. I thought it was cool that a few of us at VA were all up, and I checked my phone, checked the ranks, and saw this. I had no idea Gus was going for 147, and it's to see the run. It's just like, what? Holy crap! It was so sick. So I'm going to get this vid going. Once again, I'll start playing about 10-15 seconds after you start talking, Goose. I know you're probably the most experienced with this, and explain how like 2.x is integrated into the level as well. So go for it.
Well, I mean, the thing with 147 is like, I honestly think this is the best world record achieved this year, and no one agrees with me on that. But I'm fine to always take a stand alone. I'm just so impressed with 147. Surface 1 has just so much time leak. Like everywhere, time is just dripping away from your run. Every time you enter a building or turn a corner or do anything. And he obviously uses 2.2 or 2.4. And he gets a 0.3 advantage from the start. But then to maintain that 0.3 advantage going through the buildings with that control style, like if I do it, I just lose time. I lose all the first time you gain in the first hut because I can't control the fucking style. And it's just awful. But he just goes through it so cleanly, and every hut is like pushed to perfection. It's just a absolutely beautiful run to watch. I mean, there's not much else to say. Like, no one knew he was going for it. It was completely shocking. I can see this being untied for a very, very, very long time.
Can I cut you off real quick? The only error I noticed when I initially watched this run is the going into the first hut after you pick up the GL. It seems like there's just like a small stuck there. Or does that happen every run?
There's sort of, it appears to be lag because of the difference of frame rate when you're outside compared to inside buildings. So if it's anything, it's like 1 or 2 frames. It's not anything significant. And it does happen like all the time on pretty much every... It actually is a sign of a very good and fast run when you have that little bit of latency there. And like he's nailing 3 side grenade boosts here. That's so hard to do. He actually missed the last one, but it's so hard to get them all without getting back boosted. I think I nailed 2 or 3 on my 148. But the huts with like the way he hits that safe there, he just clips the he touches like the 1/20th of the safe. He's nowhere near it and just like picks it up. Just absolutely nuts. I mean, Clemens is agreeing with me in chat. The safe is just absolutely ballistic. He uses every single grenade perfectly to get boosted. It's just a magnificent run. It's my favorite run of the year, if not the very best of the year.
I remember myself watching the run, and I thought, it'd just be like, look like the 148s, basically. But it just has an aesthetic about it that is far superior to any of the other 148s. I mean, it looks pro.
Well said, absolutely. It's the best.
All right, we'll move on from that.
Go for to give you a better example, you could be like, it's just a 148 with a couple extra boosts, which it could have been. It could have looked like a 148 with a couple of extra boosts and 2.x, but it doesn't. It looks better for everything about it. Looks better than the 148 videos.
I agree, absolutely.
And Carl, I'm going to have you comment on this quite a bit, but Jez ties Deep Sea Agent 227, also getting into a furious battle with you. Jez would also untie 226, which Carl would tie, and then I believe that was the catapult for him to finally push for 225, which you also tied. So the trifecta going on there. I'd like you to comment on Deep Sea Agent, why it was stuck at 227 for so long, and where the hell 2 seconds came from.
Yeah. This is like going back to the theme basically of the podcast. Why would it be? I mean, Jez spent a lot of hours on Deep Sea Agent. Okay, why would it be that he'd spend like a lot of hours, then I'd come along, and all of a sudden we both have 2 seconds quicker? It does seem a bit strange. But like I said, whenever I hit a new level, I think about it a lot, and I want to make sure that everything I'm doing is optimal. So the deep sea strategy for the beginning of a level had been the same for many years. There was like this super low percentage strategy that I used back in like 2004 or something, which, okay, I won't explain the specific details of the level, but I'll just say that there was a low percentage strategy that I used. And then when I came back to the level, I figured out a way of getting that low percentage strategy speed, but increasing the likelihood of getting a quick Elvis, which meant that it's just the way that I did the level. Like, I figured out how to kill more guards at the start while still being quick. And to be honest, I don't know why it wasn't discovered earlier. But it's just one of those weird things. You're going to see again with May and PA, which is coming up. PD is just like that. PD is so complex that you'll get like everyone playing a level for 10 years, and then someone else comes along and they're like, wait a minute, you're doing this like slow, or what if you do it this way? And then it turns out that this slightly new strat's like 2 seconds quicker, and no one had seen it. It's just really bizarre how that happens with Perfect Dark, but it's pretty much what happened. I figured out, wait a minute, what if we do the start like this? So it turns out now you can get really, really quick Elvises and really quick starts really consistently, which is why the level went down so quickly.
Cool. Good to know. It's to me personally, watching deep sea runs are fun. I think SA is actually the most entertaining run in all of the game for me as a casual observer, because the strafing looks fun, and then there's some open door RNG as well. So just my 2 cents there. A couple of quick ones I'll point out here. Sergeant Rage Quit, Tyler Deal posts a pair of Archive 54s, both in the same day. That's pretty cool. Ace would come around and unties Vila PA 124 after tying Clemens's 126 the same day. And then, Carl, you're going to take center stage here once again. You finally take down the almighty Mayan PA 202, which had stood since New Year's Eve 2007, and far and away the longest standing record of all time, which is insane. I'm going to play the vid once again about 10 seconds after I hand the floor to you. Explain the level. Obviously there's a lot that goes into this. I don't know if you can consolidate it down into 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But the floor is yours.
Okay. So basically the beginning of the level revolves around alerting a guard in a different room, who then goes and opens a door at the end of a hallway where we can shoot a alien experiment, which is like what we do on Secret Agent or Special Agent. We disarm a guy, and then we shoot some bullets to alert a guard, and then we sit at the end of a hallway, which looks kind of weird on a speedrun where we're just sitting there doing nothing, but we're waiting for a guard to open a door. And then when he opens the door, we can shoot this thing to blow it up. And then the rest of the level is pretty straightforward, right? You right?
Yeah, I acknowledge.
So, did we skip over Clemens 112? Yeah, your 122 is coming up, David, don't worry. So, we had this strategy on Special Agent, and then for a Perfect Agent, people were doing a different strategy, which was slower, and they weren't using the Special Agent strategy. Now, I have no idea why. Because I wasn't part of the community for a long time, and I only just came back to Perfect Dark really seriously this year, where I played all the levels. So it just like, I as soon as I played Perfect Agent and I was like investigating it, because before I play a level, I investigate it. I watch videos and I study it, and I try and get all the best ways of doing stuff before I play. And I was watching the Perfect Agent records, and I'm like, why are people doing it this way? Why aren't they doing it the same as Special Agent, right? And then I went and I asked Matt Cook, and he was under the impression it didn't work. You couldn't do the same strategy. And I asked around, and people were just, I don't know, they thought that it wouldn't work, and I have no idea how that started. I literally have no idea. But I did a test run, and literally the first test run I did on Perfect Agent doing the Special Agent strat, it worked. So it is just bizarre. It is completely bizarre that the Perfect Agent strat was the way it was instead of just doing it the Special Agent way. I have no idea why. So all my run is okay execution of the Special Agent strategy, which is what the Perfect Agent strategy should have always been. But no one else has done it. It's just crazy.
That is pretty nuts, man. And I mean, what could you see as a possible time for this level?
The time could be 157 or 158.
So why did 202 stand so long? I just because clear
202
lack
with
of
the old
knowledge.
strat is insane.
Okay.
Like if you're using the old strat, 2 minutes is really good. Oh, sorry, 202 is really good. My run is like just standard, pretty good execution for the correct strategy, but no one else does it. There's really nothing else to say about it. The bizarre thing is that no one else used this strategy. That is the insane thing about this level. It's like a testament to the fact that a lot of people play levels without thinking, or they just don't put a lot of thought into it, and they just sort of mimic what they see on videos. But it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Perfect Dark is the Wild West, because I had no idea about the level, and I just played it a different strategy and beat the world record by 2 seconds, and it had nothing to do with the fact that I'm a better player or that I did anything good. It was just that I did it a different way, and it was just better than everyone else.
Yeah, it's just a matter of get me in there, give me my 80 points, and let's move on without thinking.
I don't know.
It's a mental barrier. Like, okay, so people will think when they see a world record video, they'll be like, this is the best way to do it. They'll just assume that. And they won't ask the question, is this the best way of doing it? Okay? I think you'll find a lot of lower level players probably just assuming this is the best way to do it. But when I watch a video, I'm never thinking this is the best way. I'm always questioning it. Every part of the level I'm questioning, is that how it's supposed to be done? Is that the best way? No matter how good the run is or who the player is and stuff like that. And people have got to stop just assuming this is the way it should be done. Question it, no matter how good it is, who's playing it or whatever, or how bad you think you are. You got to be asking questions all the time if you can do it better.
That's really good advice.
All right, moving on to, I guess, my favorite run in recent memory. I don't know. I guess Carl is the most qualified to talk about this one, especially with the dishwasher strat. But Clemens comes around and gets the last laugh, so to speak, and unties Vila PA 122, striking it right through the heart of Ace. And you'll understand what I mean at the end of the vid based on his raw reaction. And once again, I'll play the vid and let you guys take the floor about 10 seconds after. So I'll stop talking. Carl, if you've got any notes on this, go for it. I don't know how much you've played of this new strat, though.
Oh, I can tell you that I got opinion on every PD level because I played them all pretty recently. But 122 is very, very good. It's a very difficult level. Everything in the run was pretty much smooth. There's no blatant errors or anything like that. It's a very bad level to play, to be honest. Guards can get in your way, and you can just lose a few seconds just because of RNG and how guards are set up. So what you're hoping for in this level is not getting stuck on a guard, and you're hoping to get a nice, quick dishwasher warp which is kind of requires a lot of luck because you need certain other luck factors to be involved, like a certain amount of guards being in the kitchen for you to do it, so there's enough lag and stuff like that. And then nailing the end, like I can tell you in my experience, especially playing for Villa Special Agent 115, the end of Villa is definitely one of the most clutch things in Perfect Dark or GoldenEye. To be able to have a good run and then clutch the end is extremely top tier. This is going to separate the best of the best from the rest. And the fact that Dave got a really good run, he nailed the warp, and then the end was really smooth is insane. Like the end is, I can tell you the end is about 10 times harder than it looks. So the video doesn't really do it justice, but anyone who's played Villa for a really good time understands how difficult the end is under the pressure of having a good run before it.
No, and I mean, yeah, anyone who's played Villa knows that. And just watching this run, it's so clean until the ending. So clean. The warp is really good. And the ending, especially on SA and PA, is just insane.
Holy shit.
Yeah, especially with the strategy, because you're not running past a lot of guards now because you're glitching or warping past them, so you don't have much ammo. So the end is a lot harder than it used to be as well, because you don't have much ammo. So you have to be really careful, and all of your shots have to be accurate. It's just crazy. So the reason why I think David is so excited on his run is because the end was so clutch. See, I mean, you can get a few good runs, but to nail the end is just really, really crazy.
And he nailed it. His ending looked perfect for PA.
It was as good as you could ask for, to be honest.
Yeah, one of my favorite runs of the year for sure.
I think this is the best perfect. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting something, but this 122 Villa PA would be a time that I would never actually legitimately go for. I mean, you could say that I have a mental barrier or whatever, but I could not see myself getting 122 in under any circumstance using the same strategy.
Do you think there's any? Well, I was going to say, do you think there's anybody? I'm more or less I'm directing that question to Boss, who cannot verbally respond. I know he's talked about probably just leaving his 127 where it is now and probably sitting on it for a long time. But yeah, I agree. I just like a lot of Clemens on Tides. They're so next level, and they're going to sit there for a long, long time. Like who wants to challenge that? The run looks insane. Perfect start, super clutch ending. It's a legendary vid.
Yeah, I hope that a new strat doesn't come along and wreck it. To be honest, it's just so good.
Boss thinks 122 could be the best PD world record in the game. So pretty sweet. We'll go ahead and wrap this up here.
It's, I mean, it's up there. You can't forget Pelagic 2 SA 137 with the strat that Ace used was also very, very good. So I would say, I mean, with Pelagic 2 Special Agent, you can do a no X-ray strat, which is going to save some time. But if you had to get 137 with X-ray, I would put that on the same level as Villa PA 122.
And Clemens agrees, 137 is fucked. So this is still old strat, but Swiss would come and tie G5 SA 39. Also striking it through Ace's Heart. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carl. I think you said 39 old strat might be just as difficult, if not more difficult, than 38 new strat. Or am I wrong?
Okay. No, it was specifically with the way Ace did it.
Okay.
Dan used a couple of time savers that Ace didn't use. So Swiss used newer strats. So his 39 wasn't as insane as Ace's 39.
Okay.
That's not to downplay 39 or whatever. Like I already said, Swiss is insane on G5, so let's just get that out of the way. But they're not the same.
Then Ace would come and finally post Control 00404, a time he'd been played many hours for with many fails prior. I personally don't have a whole lot to offer to this conversation. I just know Control 00 takes an extraordinary amount of control of yourself and the sustained nerves that you get from insane runs. I know using the glass strat gives you almost no margin for error dealing with hat guards. To me, I think 404 is super top tier record, deep fried. Goose, anything there or not really?
I mean, it's just godlike. I mean, no one. I don't think anyone else can come remotely close to it. So that speaks for itself.
I really respect the control times. Yeah, the start of control and doing it as quickly as the top tier guys do is just crazy. In my opinion, the level is the start. If you can do the start well, then that's pretty much game over.
Yep.
It's all in the ability to line up the drone shots and the headshots very, very quickly, and that's pretty much all it is. Because the rest is, I think most people can do the end as good, but just getting those drones quickly and all that kind of stuff is just insane.
Well, that
It's
and being
like
able to manage hat guards in the beginning, in the middle of the run, rather, has always been tricky on 00 and ammo being an issue. 00 runs versus SA runs are, to me, just in a different universe.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, like a player like me, I'm really intelligent, so I could probably intelligently handle hat guards, but I could not intelligent my way out of shooting the drones at the start. It's just like it's just something that you either can do it or you can't do it, and there's no solution other than just being gifted, and that's it.
And the last note I have for part one of this big yearly recap is Boss comes out of pseudo-retirement and posts the pair of Cradle 34s and Egypt Agent 45 nearly 12 years after he initially got 46, which is insane. A 12-year gap between PRs. I know he had struggled for 45 for a while, and that propelled him up to his own zip code in 6th place there, kind of well ahead of 7th, and then well behind 5th. And that rounds out the month. Any final comments, guys? The floor is yours, and then I'll wrap it up at the end.
I mean, Boss obviously is always comes every now and then and shows that he's still the boss and he can still nail a few good times. So that's always fun to see.
Anything else, Carl, or not?
About Boss or in general?
Just in general. There's a lot of stuff to come with the second half of the year, for sure.
Yeah, I loved the theme of the show about mental barriers and having a good positive perspective on levels and stuff like that. These are the things I love. I mean, I love like inner game stuff. I mean, when you look at sports players and top athletes, they all have inner game coaches, and they have psychologists that help them look at things in a healthy way that enables them to get a higher level of success and all that. And I love psychology and that kind of stuff, so I love this aspect of it. And I think a lot of players could do a lot better if they had better perspectives and they just changed the way they thought about things and they thought a little bit more. So I wished this area was a bit more understood by a lot of players. But I can definitely say that if I am successful, a lot of it has to do with the way I see things and not as much to do with my technical ability on the game.
No, definitely. And like you said, whenever you see someone who is the greatest, like you see a Tiger Woods or a Roger Federer, you wonder what separates them. And in GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, you see it a lot as well. Like obviously Ace, Mark, and Clemens are the big three. In GoldenEye and Perfect Dark is, a little bit different. But like you said, Carl, you took advantage of uncharted territories and were able to just sort of beat the big wave of people taking advantage of strategies and whatnot. But in these games, it's almost on a micro level too. Like Ogran is the best at streets. Why is that? What separates him on streets? And you can, Swiss is maybe the best on G5. What separates them there?
No, I can tell you why Ogran is good on streets. He thinks about it, and he's got spreadsheets of his time targets, and he's just thought about it a lot. So that's why. I mean, you really got to think about stuff if you want to be the best.
Well,
The days are gone. I mean, you have to, you can't just wing it as much these days if you want to be better.
There you go. You can't just do your research, do your homework, and get those untieds or die trying.
Yeah, I've catch myself watching hundreds of vids. And it's an exaggeration, but for like Jungle, I've watched every single 50 and 51, comparing who does what the optimal strats are, what the possible endings are. Just so I don't have to sink 50 hours into a level, I can try to get away with, say, 15 hours, things like that. I try to take a more logic-driven approach to times, because I don't have a whole lot of time to dump into levels nowadays. So yes, I agree.
You should study levels, and like for Perfect Dark, for example, I see people playing levels, right? And let's say I've got the world record video on it. They don't even know my time targets. I mean, you can see the timer on my runs. They don't even know my run well enough to know what time I am and where I am. And I mean, if you're seriously playing a level, you should understand all the time targets and understand how fast things should be and have a good understanding of a few videos where you really know them inside and out. That's going to help you out 100 times more than having no idea.
All right, we will wrap this up right at about the 2-hour mark. That was awesome, guys. Thank you so much for helping co-host. Obviously, your guys' insights are invaluable and make this podcast worth watching versus my dumbass just rambling on and on. If you guys are interested, and I'd like to have Luke and Wodas take along as well, I would definitely. I mean, the second half of 2016, we're only 3/4 of the way through the year, and it's just jam packed with stuff. And Carl taking over first in PD. There's so much to recap, and I would like to do a part 2 of this sometime after the first of the year, and hype it up real good. So if you guys are cool with that, I would love to do it.
It was 6 months too long. Should we do like a 3-month? Because this was like over 2 hours.
Yeah, we certainly could. We'll see. I'll put this highlight.
Maybe a 3-month thing, because if you really, I love going in depth into stuff, and I think there's so much shit going on. 6 months that would be like a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, you're correct. You are right. Okay, we'll see how schedules work with people. So, yeah, if this is really well received, then yeah, for sure. So I'll quit talking here and officially wrap this up. I am Jimbo. For Goose and Carl, please formally.
Yeah,
I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Stuff. I love these podcasts. I'm really thankful that I was able to be a part of it. And I really hope that people listen to what I say and take it on board and see if they can learn something. Because there's definitely a lot of value that I said in this podcast.
Sometimes, the words we talked about are really good. I think this is going to be the most educational podcast for everybody. So I hope they listen and take it in. But sometimes you just got to end it. So stay true and see you next time.
Awesome.